Hey, do you want to know 20 interesting, mind-blowing facts that will inspire you as a local small business owner? Well, we're going to do it right now. And my team, led by the great and mysterious Will, put together 20 what he says and claims are totally vetted and verified facts. Some of these are kind of mind-blowing. I'm like, what is it? Are you sure this is true? So if I'm wrong, don't yell at me. Yell at Will. It's Will's fault. He gets all the blame. So check this out. Running a small business is hard. And I think it's really cool to be reminded of other stories of other small business owners. And so let's dig into this. Here's the first one. It says, did you know that Motorola, the gigantic company, first aimed for record players in cars? Okay, that was what their business was. They were trying to figure out how to get record players installed in cars. Can you, it sounds silly now, but there was really smart people figuring this problem out. They had investors and capital and time and resources. Can you imagine a car bouncing down the road and the needle of the record players moving around and they're trying to make... And, they pivoted completely. So what's the lesson here? I mean, the lesson to me is whatever business you're in right now doesn't have to be your forever business. So unless you're totally tunnel visioned and you can't see other opportunities to pivot, there's great opportunity, because even with a really small company, you learn how to read a P&L and hire employees. It can be applied to maybe a better opportunity vehicle or a different service or a different product in the future. I think that's really inspiring. Next one is WhatsApp, which I don't really use WhatsApp, but when we lived in Costa Rica, everybody in the whole rest of the world uses WhatsApp. It's a whole giant thing. But the founder of WhatsApp tried to get a job working for Facebook and he got denied, okay? So he gets stiff-armed, no, you're not good enough. So he's like, okay, I'll just build WhatsApp. Then he sold it to Facebook for $19 billion. $19 billion, that's a lot of dollars. What's the lesson in that? It means that maybe every no isn't a no. Maybe it's a not yet. Or maybe you just approach it from a different angle. Or, the real lesson in that story is that guy underestimated his own self. Maybe like you do. Because if he really knew what he was capable of, he wouldn't have applied for the job in the first place, right? So it's a crazy redemption story. The next fact is, did you know that McDonald's started with hot dogs, not burgers? Which I didn't believe this, but Will assures me that this is true. They actually started out originally selling hot dogs and orange juice. Orange juice. That's almost as bad as drinking orange juice after you brush your teeth, Will. That's I don't know, orange juice with hot dogs. And so, yes, business is a game of iteration, right? So if you're doing something or frustrated by something, or you're trying to find the vein of gold and it isn't working perfectly, just know that that's normal. That's the way it always is. The real game is staying in the game. The next fun fact is Coca-Cola is almost everywhere in the world except for 2 countries, North Korea and Cuba. So what's the lesson? Even the giants have limits, right? Basically, you can't have it all. I heard a quote one time that said that you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything you want. Even Coca-Cola, you can go to South Africa and get an ice cold Coca-Cola. You can go to Indonesia and get it's really amazing. But even they don't have everything, and not everybody likes Coca-Cola. They're kind of everywhere, but tons of people hate Coca-Cola and think it's gross. So you don't need everyone to like your stuff to be really prolific and successful. Here's an interesting one. It says, did you know that Bubblewrap was originally invented as wallpaper? Okay, so this is a fail. First of all, why would you think it's a good idea that bubble wrap is wallpaper? Maybe in an insane asylum, you wrap the walls with bubble wrap. I think that actually could make sense. So I don't know the whole backstory on that, but it's another example of pivoting, right? And not letting the fact that no one wanted to buy it as wallpaper stop them. They just changed the avatar. They changed the way that they sold it, and it worked. And bubble wrap's a super important thing. It's crazy. Another one is Play-Doh. Play-Doh actually was a wallpaper cleaner, which is actually really interesting. I could see that, right? I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I think the founders of these companies, what they had is they had an eye to pivot. They had the courage to pivot. They weren't dogmatic on their core business, right? Some people get married to the how to do the business thing instead of getting married to the I will be successful thing. And so if you are a pressure cleaner that washes houses and you do it this certain way and you want to die on the hill of that, even 62 years later when automated robot drones are pressure cleaning houses, you're just going to be like the people that were still building buggies for horse-drawn carriages when freaking Henry Ford was crushing the Model T. Can I get an amen? This happens over time in all industries, and some people won't learn and adapt, and the people that do, though, really cool things can happen. Twitter actually started out as a podcast platform before it became Twitter, and it bombed. It totally failed. Did not work at all, but they didn't quit. Are you going to quit? Don't quit. WD-40, the little lubrication spray, the name means water displacement 40th attempt. That's what it actually means. So it's not that creative of a name, I guess. But the encouragement is that they had 39 failed attempts. The 40th one worked. And I don't remember how many times Colonel Sanders from KFC got rejected when he was trying to sell his famous fried chicken recipe or whatever, but it was a lot. And he didn't even start that business till he was in his 60s. But there's one common thing you'll see about really high achievers is that they can fail. It's really not a failure. You're just learning, but they get setback after setback after setback, but they don't stop, which is why Angela Ducksworth in her book, Grit, says that the only one common unifying thread between all high achievers is grit. They have abnormal levels of grit, stick-to-itiveness. They don't give up. They're stubborn. They're stubborn in a good way. They're committed to winning. They don't care if they have to pivot this way or do it this other way or do it this way they didn't even think of yet. When that way reveals itself, they'll see it and they'll move on it. You got to have grit because in her book, it's fascinating. Some people are born into rich families and they'll become successful. Some people are born into abject poverty and some of them become successful. And there's a whole bunch of people in the middle. There's men and there's women. There's tall and there's short. There's black and there's white. There's skinny, there's fat. The one thing that's true for almost all of them is their level of grit, which I think is so interesting. Okay, let's go to the next page here. Next one we have is Angry Birds, the famous video game that became a freaking movie. It was Rovio's 52nd game. This company had made 51 games before they made Angry Birds. You know, how many people have the guts and the pain tolerance to keep bashing their head against a wall and keep iterating and keep trying? Because, you know, you're really basically, you're either going to win or you're going to quit. You're either going to win or you're going to give up. And a lot of people that have a company, they're still running their company, but they gave up. Let me be very clear. People gave up. They're just, it's like the Walking Dead. They get up, they do it, they resent it, they go home, they drink themselves to sleep, and they do it again. They gave up, right? I think innovation requires that we have fun, you know, and there had to be some level of fun happening at some of these companies for them to keep pushing. Here's an interesting one. Did you know that the founder of IKEA is dyslexic? Also, Richard Branson, dyslexic. Damon Johns from Shark Tank, freaking dyslexic. In addition to that, Howard Schultz, the guy that started Starbucks, has ADHD. Walt Disney had ADHD. And the purpose of this, the lesson here is perfection is not required, my friend. Like, it's okay if you're broken, you have a personality quirk. If you're an introvert, if you're an extrovert, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you have grit and that you pivot towards opportunities and that you learn and you realize that not every setback is bad. You know, a lot of times setbacks are setups, right? Your mess becomes your message and all that. Netflix, as we all know, started as a DVD service, right? They would mail you a DVD that changed really, really quick, but they were on their game. And then here, let's do this one last. It says, did you know that Nintendo started as a playing card company in 1889? I did not know this. I didn't know any of these. So thank you, Will, for figuring these out. I think it's encouraging because, you know, what got us here won't get us there. And we got to always keep our eyes peeled for kind of the next thing, the next opportunity. We want to be studying ourselves and learning about ourselves and what our strengths and weaknesses are, what our blind spots are. Knowing we don't have to be good at everything, but we need to do more of the things we're good at. And, you know, when you look at your business as a playground, as a sandbox to really learn, and when you understand that it doesn't have to be your forever business, I feel like it gives you more elasticity to have a little bit of fun and to learn from the people around you. I guess in conclusion, never give up. Right? It's okay if your business is a starter business. A lot of people had a starter business. I think there's a lot of value in a local service business, kind of teaching you the ropes of hiring and training and retaining and selling and marketing and profit and loss and numbers and KPIs and all of the things that could be applied towards, you know, something that has more upside potentially, right? I think that's great. I think that time is an unfair advantage. Time meaning if you stay in the game and don't quit, a bunch of things start to compound in your favor, right? You get really sharp, you get really good. And it might feel like you're watching grass grow when you're living it, when you're in it right now. But the next 10 years is going to go by whether you want it to or not. Time is going to elapse regardless of what you have to say about it. And if you kept hammering the nail that you're hammering into the board for the next 10 years, you're going to be orders of magnitude better at probably everything as long as you keep trying to level up. And it's really hard to lose, right? And there's no need to be perfect. ADHD, dyslexia, if you are not organized, you can still win, right? Because we can surround you with people to compensate for your inadequacies. And then last but not least, have fun. That's my last note. Have fun. I think it's easier to win if you have fun. Now, not every day is fun. You know, I'm not having fun all the time, but I think it's important to have fun because creativity comes out when it's fun. You can do hard things easier when it's fun. You know, you can burn 1,000 calories playing basketball, and it doesn't feel the same as burning 1,000 calories on a stair stepper machine. Can I get an amen? It's because one is a game. Treat your business like a game. Good things will happen to you. And let me know what your thoughts are. Do you feel like this is your starter business, or is this your forever business? Do you recognize the things you've already learned that are so valuable that you can apply to the next thing, right? Can you see yourself growing? Can you see it? Because if you only focus on the gap, which is all the things you still need to work on, and you never remind yourself of the gains that you've made, the little improvements, you know, it's hard to have fun, right? You already have done a lot, right? And as Tony Grebmeyer says, you've already won and there's nowhere to get. So I'll see you in the next video.